Furball.
Ahem.
Thank you. Now, the sound of John Denver being strangled. You came on my pillow. It's the best.
Okay. Hello, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 771. This is May 1st, 2024 as we record it. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Brett Van Smernberg.
And I'm Kent Burgess.
Okay.
People pay us to do this, you know?
Do they? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You can find out how to pay us to do this nonsense by going to patreon.com/PCPer. It's not recommended, but if you do, you will be appreciated. Because we literally wouldn't do this without you. We feel obligated.
True.
So continue the obligation. Do you have anything on the Patreon front this week, Brett?
We do.
You know, we do. We do. We've got H. Wally. Wally. Thank you very much. I'm not making fun of your name. I'm just overemphasizing it because I'm very appreciative. I think we're all appreciative. I mean, that puts dollar bills on the countertop for Josh's Burger Time. That's what you're doing with that. So thank you very much. So there's Wally, H. Wally, not T, H. Wally, and it's T. Goodwell. T. Goodwell. Thank you very much, both of you, for keeping this whole thing on the rails. As Sebastian was saying, we couldn't do this without you. Much appreciated.
Let's move to the burger segment, or the food segment. It's Food with Josh.
Food with Josh. So there I was, eating a burger in the mighty Mississippi with my patent leather shoes. And I don't know why. Oh, sorry. I watched a little Shatner today, and it's inspiring. The burger today was quite tasty. It was the Hatch green chili burger made with actual Hatch fire roasted Hatch green chilies, and it's tasty. So you've got the fire roasted Hatch green chilies, which were actually somewhat spicy. I mean, not like jalapeno spicy, but somewhat spicy. And then on top of that was some white queso and some pepper jack cheese. And that's all you need for a good burger, for a Hatch green chili burger. Of course, it came with 2 patties. Perfectly done. The fries were great. Crispy on the outside. Fluffy on the inside. Perfectly done. Nicely seasoned. A little too much salt this time, but not horrible. But yeah, this was a good Wednesday. And I'll probably have something like that next week. I don't know. They didn't have a special today. I was kind of disappointed, but can't have a special every day. Otherwise it wouldn't be special, would it?
Okay, it's time for the financial segment. You know it, you love it. Another quarter is in the books, and Josh is going to talk about it. You want to start with Intel or AMD?
I'll start with Intel because they always announce first, and AMD's a few days later, depending on how they decide to do things. Their first quarter was not fantastic, but it was not horrific. I mean, things have been looking fairly grim for Intel. They've burned through a tremendous amount of cash. They still have, something of a treasure chest in there. I mean, $7 billion of free cash, and they have other investments and things they can lean upon. And I'm sure that there are plenty of banks who would happily lend them money. They're still a blue chip stock. But their first quarter revenue was $12.7 billion. It was up some 9%. I think that's non-GAAP. It was something like it was GAAP, 9% increase from last year. So $11.7 billion Q1 2023, which was not, fantastic. Their gross margins went down to 34% in 2023. And this year has been an improvement. They still lost money. But, their gross margins went up to 41%. A lot of this is because of, they're trying to expand their foundries. Their 10 nanometer plus, which is now Intel 7, has not been historically kind to them. We've seen some erosion in data center with their products because AMD has been so strong. They're still trying to get into the graphics market, and their AI stuff is really just getting off the ground. I mean, they're going to sell some parts, but they're far behind both AMD and especially NVIDIA. I mean, they're thinking that NVIDIA is going to have $40 billion in sales just in the next 12 months with AI chips. AMD is going to have some $4 billion, and Intel is going to have $500 million maybe. But that's the that's the rumor, and we'll see how that goes. But it was a stronger quarter than it was last year. Margins are improving. And even though they lost money, they're not doing horrific. But they did burn through $1.2 billion of free cash. And they have something like $7 billion left of free cash. So, their data center is getting kind of hammered. The client seems to be doing good. Their graphics is still it's in the dump, which is unfortunate because they're still solid parts. They're still moving forward with Battle Mage. We'll probably see that maybe at the end of Q3. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. I mean, Intel's going to be there. They still have some 75 to 80% of market share of the x86 market. But, we've seen a spread out of, where money is going, especially at the top end. And all that is AI chips from, Amazon, Google, Meta. All these guys are buying these things. And they're primarily going with NVIDIA because they have a really solid solution. And they have the framework that everybody is used to with CUDA. And even though we're seeing a lot better compatibility in terms of software from the PyTorch guys and all these other folks, all these, kids from 10, 15 years ago who graduated from college and have a basic understanding of CUDA, you take those products with you to work and you work with what you're familiar with. And that was one thing NVIDIA did very, very well as outreach to universities back in the day. So, Intel had a solid quarter. It was not great, but it was better than last year. And they're building upon their foundry stuff. They still have a long way to go with that. It's a lot of money being spent there. I think I explained last podcast that because they were not a third-party fab provider for decades, they don't have a lot of the tools in place to be able to get these other products up and running on their process nodes. And so that's a rough one. And, the groups that actually do work with them, they've got to be a little bit more patient because it's just not as streamlined as, say, like TSMC or Samsung or UMC or these other guys who have been in business and doing this stuff for decades. So not much else to say than that, other than they're kind of getting hammered on the desktop at the high end. We have a few issues there that they're trying to hammer out with motherboard partners. And, when your CPU is pulling up to 300 plus watts of power at any one time, that bad things could possibly happen. And they have. So that's Intel. Any questions?
Can I get a quarter?
Quarter of what?
Hey, well, I mean, just one Intel quarter would be nice.
Oh, yeah. You would like to pay out $900 million because you owe it?
Because the amount of money I get back on my taxes, and the investors would bail me out. It's a win-win situation here.
Yeah,
because Intel is not upset by this outcome.
No, it's you know. Go ahead.
I was going to ask whether a legitimate question. Have you heard any rumors beyond Battle Mage yet? Anything?
I think a lot of the AI stuff and the Ponte and the Gaudi stuff, they really are kind of forced to continue improving the graphics because there's so much money in AI and GPUs. And not only that, GPUs with matrix C acceleration, matrix units built in, like Intel has, like NVIDIA has, which AMD does not. Those are huge engines for, large language models, machine learning, AI stuff. And they're on a good track with that. And I don't know the internal communications because Intel's kind of an odd company in that if it's not a x86, they don't particularly like it. And they have, axed many things in the past, like StrongArm, some of the networking stuff. And, in the late 90s, 3D graphics. I mean, these are all things that could have turned into really big products for them, but they've kind of they're not producing now, they're not making money now. We're going to deep six them. We're going to sell them off. We're going to do whatever, and it's come back to bite them. And I wonder if Pat's in there saying, "Hey, we got to stay the course. We've got we have a really good portfolio of IP. We have top-notch engineers." We have, the greatest technical workforce in the world, really. We can make this work. It's just going to take time. And it's going to take not only the hardware guys, but the software guys. And then the people working on frameworks and working with third-party groups to get their software up to speed, working with this hardware. It's a big deal. And they're 20 years behind. And, their A770... as many issues as it's had, it's still a really solid part for the price, and they continually improve it. So that's the ARC reference for this stream. But yeah, no, I mean, I can't see them not continuing on with GPUs because it just goes hand in hand with where compute and visual compute and AI compute and ML compute it's all going. I mean, that kind of architecture with, large floating point combined very, very closely with matrix multiplication. It's all right there. And I'm probably saying that wrong. Matrix multiplication? I can't remember.
Matrix math, sure. You make a strong argument for the fact that they're going to...
Go ahead, Brett.
They're going to continue to invest in it, but it may be like as an enterprise package. They may put it together that way and sell it as a solution in the AI space, but they may not put it together as a commercial, discrete kind of like slot in GPU. So you definitely make a strong argument for them staying in the space, but I'm dubious as to whether or not they're going to stay with the commercial or even the consumer space or the semi-professional space, and they may just move all of that investment and packaging and solution to pure enterprise. But they'll probably stay with it. They do have some good IP in the space, as you know.
And something that you haven't mentioned is that their licensing for GPU acceleration in VM is
interesting.
$0.
Yeah,
Zero.
Nothing. Nada.
You start looking at what NVIDIA charges for licensing. I mean, if you've got a VDI instance and you've got one, NVIDIA GPU in there doing that acceleration for VMs, it's insane. It's a lot of money, and Intel is doing
VMs,
it, and they're doing it very well.
VMs is in the enterprise space, and they own it, depending on which VM you're picking. But it's just like a tax on something. You tax something a la NVIDIA, you get less of it. There you go. Another interesting argument.
Yeah.
But us gamers, we may be left out in the cold.
Well, perhaps.
I don't know. It depends on how much free fab space that Intel wants to fill up, because you got to keep those things running 24/7, or you just can't shut them down for periods of time.
Fair.
It just, the economics do not work that way. So you would rather sell chips at a loss and still sell them and still keep those fabs active. But
yes,
I don't know. Intel still has.
How much fab space is sitting around nowadays unused? Not much.
And where are they making these? Where are they actually making the silicon?
In those fabs they made in the U.S. Oh wait, no. So we're still
that's coming
Oregon,
soon. There's going to be more fab space soon.
Ireland,
Ohio,
Israel, more in Arizona, another in Ohio.
Arizona. Mm-hmm.
Isn't there one up in Germany that they're working on too?
No, that's AMD. Well, Global Foundries.
Oh, that's AMD. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's Global. Sorry.
Yeah, that's Dresden. Now Upper New York. Yeah, they're still building some stuff up there. And IBM was Global Foundries, all those guys.
Well, it makes sense. You got water there, as opposed to where
we brought this up before, and people like smashed us over the fact that you couldn't bring water to Arizona. They were like, "Of course you can get water to Arizona,
but it costs money."
I'm like, exactly.
Any other Intel?
That was my question.
Facts? Other than I screwed up probably about 17 different things.
Not that many.
I'm sure no one will quote you on it, so it's fine.
Wake up, Kent. We're back.
We're definitely.
Oh, I'm awake. I've just been waiting. So I'm kind of an optimist that we will see Battle Mage consumer cards, simply because we're still seeing so many new driver updates and patches that are improving performance just constantly. I mean, there was 2 weeks ago, there was another new driver update that again improved performance on the ARC cards, the existing ARC cards. And I just don't feel like Intel would be investing that time and money into a product line that they don't intend on continuing. I really feel like we will see a second generation of their discrete cards. I mean, they may only use like integrated like Battle Mage graphics on CPUs, but I like I say, I feel like I'm being an optimist on it, but I feel like we're going to see at least a couple of models of Battle Mage discrete GPUs, and I'm excited for it. I would love to see, we've all would love to see a third competitor hit that market more seriously. And if the ARC cards, when they released, if they had had the performance then that they have now, things would be a lot different for them. But, driver optimization and GPUs, it takes time. There's a reason why NVIDIA's got a lot of people on their driver teams that have been there a long time that make lots of money, because these drivers, they just, they build and build, and it takes time.
Two quick comments. One, I just want to make sure that you understood that I was actually talking about past Battle Mage, because we all know that's coming to consumer space. And second, it still blows my mind that driver optimization is like per game, so that's why the driver teams have to stay on top of everything to optimize the performance of whatever card they're driving, whether it be NVIDIA, AMD, or Intel. They have to optimize it per game. So it's almost like the API, it may be the same, but still every game needs to have special optimizations. And it's very inefficient,
mass data replacement and real-time compiler changes. So that's why we have
that game
1 gigabyte size driver files.
Yes, exactly. But that's whatever
good
that
luck,
game
Silicon
does.
drivers, because Unity 6 was just put into preview today. So you're going to have to re-optimize all over again.
By the way, if you're not watching the live stream, you're not seeing a certain former editor-in-chief of Hard OCP's commentary. Pretty salty. The latest comment, 100% increase of 2 FPS is 4 FPS.
Well, it's
and he also posits that Intel has eaten a loss on every card sold. Very possible.
Probably, yes.
And here's the other thing. How much money are they going to dump into continued driver development for products that don't make any money when at some point they've got to answer to the shareholders and know they're burying this inside their consumer computing group?
Yeah, and it's easy to bury.
I mean, think of it also this way. The software development work they do now also improves because they folded ARC into the integrated graphics of every new CPU.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's a massive increase in compatibility and performance for these integrated chips, and still integrated rules the roost for any laptop sold low end desktop.
Okay, I appreciate the people in the chat and you, Josh, pointing out that they have IGP, but that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about integrated graphics. We're talking about them possibly competing.
I'm
with
talking
desktop
about our ROI on
cards.
software. It's the return on investment.
Sure.
Sebastian, I do want to point out that Kyle also mentioned that he will quote Josh. I think you may have missed that comment.
Was it Josh or Kent? Who's he quoting? Somebody said we will see Battle Mage. We will see 2 different models of Battle Mage.
Kent said that.
No, we probably will.
Kyle's definitely quoting Josh, is what he said.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
I mean, the best place to test out your drivers for professional equipment is on gamers. See where things go wrong. See where precision starts breaking down. And do it for free because they'll test it for you. And then turn around and move to the enterprise.
Razer, they cannot manufacture.
They will be vocal and let you know if there's something going wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Would you like to move to the topic number 2
AMD
today after?
Okay, well, because Intel announced, AMD has also announced because that's just the way they are. Actually, it's the timing of how they do the quarters. But regardless, Q1 2024 for AMD was pretty good. They beat revenue by a little bit from the street, almost $5.5 billion, which again, looking back just a few years back, they were barely scraping 1.5 billion in revenue. Their gross margin has again risen slightly to 47%. I mean, last year it was down at 44%, which of course was much higher than their absolute lowest, which I believe was about 32% way back in the FX days. And it was not good. And they were hanging on by the skin of their teeth. So this is, historically a pretty good quarter for them. Their data center is exploding as compared to everything else. I mean, their gaming and their embedded, which is, like what, Xilinx, whatever you want to call them. Those have been shrinking a bit because I think gaming involves the semi-custom and also their standalone GPUs. They've been dumping the market with their 6000 series, trying to get rid of that. Now we're finally at a point where 6000 is going bye-bye, and now we're seeing some good price cuts in the 7000 series. I mean, they're competing, but it's not a profit generator for them. Their client is doing very, very well. And again, part of that is because Intel, especially at their top end, is doing very poorly. There are just a lot of issues with them pulling the amount of power that they do with their high-end CPUs that AMD, even though they still pull plenty of power, they're not at that same kind of level. But huge data center. Their MI300X is growing by leaps and bounds. In 2 quarters, it has gone up to 1 billion in revenue, which is, again, massive for the company. And they expect this year to sell about 4.5 billion. Well, they say officially 4 billion, but it's going to be higher than that, 4.5 billion plus if this AI thing continues to go. They have a little bit better support than Intel. And unlike, let me just put it this way. AMD is selling every MI300 series chip that's coming off of the line at a pretty good price and really good margins, because NVIDIA also cannot make enough product with their H100 and the latest ones. So yeah, AMD is they're picking up the scraps. They're pushing hard to get into this marketplace. Their desktop and CPUs are doing great. Their enterprise CPUs are fantastic. I mean, they're overshadow the best that Intel has at this time. And people who once scoffed at AMD CPUs and Dell servers are now trying to buy them up as fast as they can. So,
and can't, because they're gone.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was not a blowout quarter by any stretch of the imagination. It was a solid quarter. They're up higher than they were last year, only by about 2%. They are down some $700 million from Q4, which, of course, Q4 is always the strongest quarter of the year. But historically speaking, it wasn't that big of a drop. Q2 is going to be better. And they just continue along their merry way. They've got the new Ryzen 8000 series that are going to be coming out soon. They'll have more Zen 5 based data center stuff coming out later this year. The MI300 series is selling very, very, very well for them. Yeah, it's just there's a lot of upside to them. Again, not a blowout quarter, but they had growth in certain areas. They've had some shrinkage in other areas. And RDNA 4 will be introduced sometime in the next 6 months. And even though there won't be a high-end offering, their mid-range is going to supposedly match their current high-end offering. And it's very much like the Polaris generation back in the day, where, you know, they match the last generation's high-end with a part that is mid-range price. And I mean, the amount of RX 480 and 580 cards that were sold was pretty good for AMD. They just don't, have great margins because of the market that they're aiming at. And this looks like it's going to be very, very similar. But it's going to have increased ray tracing because, they'll actually have dedicated ray tracing hardware instead of just using, one of their scalar units, vector units. I can't remember which one.
They did a lot of the math in software, as you know. So
yeah, it was all software.
It's not to say. I mean, it's sort of software, but yeah, it was kind of software.
It's all software now, anyway. So
pretty much.
But now they've got dedication.
All right, now can I go to sleep?
Yes.
My work is done here. I've bored you all to tears for the past, 30 minutes?
30 minutes? Three of you aren't just going to talk for another 15 minutes?
Well, we can.
How do they work?
I mean, I have opinions too, but
I made this special view and everything.
I know
you did.
Yeah,
you know what? We didn't skip a beat though. We played into it.
I like how you just rolled with it.
Just rolled right in.
The only three people talking. Let's just get me and Kent out of here so we can, I don't want to be seen lounging.
Why clutter the scene with non-contributors at that point?
Yeah, seeing me back here like this or playing on my phone. It's unprofessional.
Why does Kent look like a cardboard cutout now?
Kent is Kent will return to his planet of origin if we don't stop this.
Yeah.
Ken,
So what do you think, Sebastian?
So when you guys get into that, I've got nothing really valuable to add. So I just sit back and listen, or don't listen. One of the two.
I had only one thought looking at these results in the gaming segment, and it was just, maybe the Steam hardware survey isn't total BS. Because according to Team Red, smart people are running Radeon cards. It's a better value proposition, which I can't argue with in multiple segments, but especially when the 6000 series is in the mix.
Josh and I are.
Okay.
Well, not my main machine, but...
Oh, okay. I've still got a 6800 XT in my main.
Oh, wow.
I'm just thinking, I think that NVIDIA has, for maybe less enthusiastic followers of this industry, they have a bigger mind share. So it's just like, I want a graphics card. I'm going to build a gaming rig. I need to get a GeForce card. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's just all of their... Is it pre-built? Are they counting laptop?
Yes.
There's not a lot of laptops with AMD Radeon GPUs. That's for sure.
They could very well be counting consoles.
That's it. That's what I was going to say.
Well, if they are, I think that AMD
semi-custom is okay. How many handhelds from MSI, Asus, Steam Deck use AMD semi-custom silicon?
All of them.
Steam Deck is
the MSI one that just came out.
How well
does not.
have those been selling?
Not. Right. And you know what? It's interesting that this drop in the gaming segment for AMD is pretty similar to the drop in Xbox Series whatever sales. So
stop noticing that. Stop it. Stop noticing that.
I wonder. Let me look that number up.
Yeah. Kyle says that the way Sue is talking about gaming, that he doesn't think we'll see RDNA 4 till Q1 25. And that could
very well he's probably right.
Yeah.
But
there's,
as I say,
I
hope the wait is worth
space.
it, because otherwise it's making space for something that's just a small iterative gain.
Making space for Battle Mage.
They're giving Intel that edge.
Yeah.
Didn't we recently get a story about the next gen of Radeons? They weren't even going to look at the top end.
That's what Josh was just saying.
This is the rumor.
They're going to be mid-range.
Mid to upper.
And here's why.
Range,
You want to know the real reason why? It's not because they didn't have a solution. It's not like they couldn't come up with something to be a high-end competitor. It's that they probably looked at it and said, why would we pay for these wafers at this die size when we get for consumer gaming, where we have to be price competitive with NVIDIA, when we could simply use that for an AI accelerator that we can charge 10 times as much for? It just doesn't make any sense.
I like a lot of what you're saying, except the price competitive part, because price competitive with NVIDIA means $1,500, $1,200.
What I mean by that is that it needs to reflect the performance relative to NVIDIA, because like it or not, NVIDIA sets the standard for performance right now, because we haven't had that 9700 Pro in a while where AMD takes over and says, no, we're setting the benchmark for performance on desktop graphics. That's the 4090 right now. So unless they come out with a 4090 killer, they're still chasing NVIDIA, and then they still have to price it $50, $100, $200 less per card, depending on their relative performance, is my point. So why would they sell a card even at $1,000, $1,200?
Yeah, $1,200.
It's not going to make them the money that selling whatever the Instinct card is that uses the same die. So
because their volume.
Because there's no way in hell they're coming out with a 4090 killer.
No, they're not.
And I want it to happen, but it's not going to happen.
The rumored 200 CU card that was allegedly spotted and they were in development, it was going to be the big flagship card. They've canceled that. What is happening in the industry? It's AI, everything. It's an endless source of money right now. So why would they even bother with consumer graphics? Why does NVIDIA bother with consumer graphics? Do they care? Do they make that much money? off of it compared to what
they'll make decent money. But here's the thing: is you need to diversify your product line.
Sure,
because they're looking in the future and they're like, okay, AI is fine, all, but we've seen crash after crash after crash.
Yes,
crypto being the latest. If we don't keep a foot,
Josh,
into this area,
you forget blockchain. Yes. At your own peril.
But
what you're forgetting.
If you look at the overall AI market, everyone's lost money on it. AI is running negative before you even count on the energy. That's
NVIDIA is not running negative on AI. The company's selling the hardware to be used for.
They're just
they're just making all the money in the world, but nobody else is making any money off of this scam.
The actual industry they're selling to is not making money, and occasionally killing people, or having unforeseen accidents.
Yeah, you can't continue to sell at 10% loss per sale and stay in business. So there you go.
Unlike blockchain, AI actually has work.
Sure, we've heard this before, but for consumers, it's garbage. It's the Rabbit R1 and that stupid $700 AI pen with a $2,400.
That was going to be my anti-pick thing. Was the Rabbit R1 because I've been Shell has just been kicking the snot out of it.
Let's move on to something, anything else, please. In our next news story, this is at videocards.com. I think this comes via Igor's lab. Intel made a statement on Core i9 stability concerns. Quote, Intel has observed that this issue may be related to out-of-specification operating conditions.
Wait, what?
Resulting in sustained high voltage and frequency during periods of elevated heat. Analysis of affected processors shows some parts experience shifts in minimum operating voltages, which may be related to operation outside of Intel's specified operating conditions. I'm not going to go on and read the whole quote, but they're talking about how some boards set BIOS defaults to disable thermal and power delivery safeguards designed to limit processor exposure to sustained periods of high voltage and frequency.
Why would they do such a thing? Why?
It's almost as if they got all the reviews to show performance at this unsafe level of voltage and power and got their 40,000 plus scores in Cinebench R23. And then they're like, wait, guys, we just found out that motherboard vendors are setting the power too high. We're going to do something about this. Intel, quote, Intel requests system and motherboard manufacturers to provide end users with a default BIOS profile that matches Intel recommended settings.
You know what I think is going to happen?
What?
Taiwan is going to make a break back into the consumer market and only going to produce motherboards with exact Intel specifications.
That's a good call. I like it.
They tried hard back in the day.
They did.
They were great, but their stuff was just not flashy and it just worked. And
I loved them in my server room, but not so much under my desk.
In the server room, they were great. They're great boards.
By the way,
and they use tantalum capacitors.
Quick,
those things pop nice when they blow up.
Get Hard-OCP on here. We'll talk about tantalum again.
He's talking about voltage stuff.
Oh God, no!
What is he talking about? Let's see.
He says this voltage stuff has been going on for as long as I've been reviewing motherboards. It's just now getting out of hand because the CPUs are already overclocked. Yes, it's because 12th gen comes out, it's already kind of
power
insane.
Than your average microwave.
And then the 13th gen comes out, and they don't have anything new, so they just overclock 12th gen. And then 14th gen comes out, and it's just an even more overclocked 13th gen at the high end. These are all Core i9 processors. And it's just completely out of hand. And where do they have to go? Nowhere. Even more careful binning, trying to find golden chips.
They have so much internal control over voltage and, changing the voltage and monitoring heat and all of that stuff that we're just at the ragged edge unless you have extreme cooling. And most of us don't. And the stock stuff that they use with these pre-built using these CPUs is crap.
There is no common inexpensive consumer cooler that can handle 320 watts from a CPU. It's just, there just isn't. Like, you have to go custom loop. Radiators for a while have been very happy to stay in this 25 to 27 millimeter thickness, fin density, the kinds of fans, because people favor low noise over performance whenever possible. You would have to have the thickest, 280 or 360 millimeter rads with just delta fans and a 5,000 RPM pump. And I don't even know if that would do it. It's just...
So, do you recall the article I wrote? It was last year, where I started with just a base 13900 KS, and did various stages. I did it with just the die on a water block. Then I lapped the die. Then I delidded the die, et cetera, just to see the differences, and testing some different blocks as well. In stock configuration, with XMP applied on the motherboard for the G-Skill 6400, I think was the RAM I used, with an EK. Actually, no, it might have been an Optimus. No, it was the EK block. Never mind. It's an EK block, 360 millimeter EK performance, 45 millimeter radiator, and in stock configuration XMP, it hit 100 degrees in Cinebench pretty quickly.
Probably within seconds.
Before that was cool.
And you had to lap the die or delid it to get decent temperatures out of it. You pulled that up pretty quickly. So yeah, it's crazy the amount of power that they're putting through these and the amount of heat. You can't cool them with consumer cooling. You've got to do something exotic with them to keep them under control. Yeah, this entire thing has changed. I'm currently working on a massive CPU cooler review of multiple coolers, and I'm changing the whole way I'm doing it. But I was thinking of going up to measuring up to 300 watts, and I realized there's no point in it because only a consumer, maybe a 360 or a 420 AIO is going to be able to cool 300. So I stopped at 275 watts because the only thing that's going to pull more than that are these i9s, and you shouldn't be using coolers like that on them to begin with.
And our next news story, Microsoft. April patches bring NTLM and VPN crash. Oh, I heard about this. VPNs are broken, but there's no fix yet.
They're not going to specify which ones, just that if you run a VPN, there's a good chance that it's not going to connect and it'll just randomly fail until it doesn't, and then it drops, and then it reconnects and it drops. And it all stems from the wonderful last month's Patch Tuesday. And they do suggest that if you're familiar with DSIM, you can run the DSIM list packages to find out which of the packages Microsoft provided that they don't want to tell you what the name of it is, because hell, what's the point of a knowledge base number if you can actually look it up and figure out what patch it was and uninstall it? No, we're just going to put them all into a roll-up, and then we're going to force you to find out which packages you have so you can figure out which random code we gave you for that specific package so that you can uninstall all of the security patches, not just the one that screwed up your VPN. This is not saved for the consumer. This also kills VPNs on servers. And just because, as an added bonus gift, NTLM authentication is suddenly going to start failing and causing huge loads on your CPUs on the servers unless you have a lot of low LTM and low NTLM traffic and a whole bunch of DCs. I mean, if you got a dozen domain controllers out there, which, you know, everyone should, because that's brilliant for replication and makes everything work so well.
You do in your house,
you're not
right?
going to see this. Yeah. Oh, yes. I need 3 for every computer. I need a backup on top of the backup on top of the backup. Yeah.
Well,
so yeah,
sounds totally
again,
screwed.
Yeah. No root cause given, no specific guidance given on how to do it. The fact that they finally admitted this happened on the last day of April, after they pushed it out on Patch Tuesday, tells you how Microsoft is doing right now.
This is just an 11 problem, correct?
No, the VPN issue will affect you if you're on 10 as well. And, well, you are running an older version of server because, well, we can't be bothered to put out a brand new one, so screw you.
Hey, speaking of Microsoft and screw you, Microsoft, they just keep on giving, because now you get a watermark if you're not using AI as well. Was that just if you're not activated, or is it use Copilot or else?
You're not capable of running Copilot.
No, this is amazing. It just gets better and better. Say you actually use like Rufus to bypass the TPM requirement, and you get it installed on an ancient system like, a Haswell or something.
Yes.
And then,
but the thing is that you're not going to experience the tailored Copilot interface that Microsoft truly wants you to experience.
Yeah.
And so they need to warn you that if you are going to run some sort of Copilot instance on your desktop, oh, right, you didn't block that? So yeah, you're already running a Copilot instance on your desktop, whether you like it or not. They're going to let you know that it's not meeting the hardware requirements that are going to give you that bespoke feel of
yes,
the new Cortana.
No, leave it to Microsoft to try and
said, well, this is the insider build, so they always
God. Yeah, they're raising the quality experience level at every turn, and this is just another one of those. Trust us, you're going to want this better experience. We'll remind you.
Whatever happens to... Amusingly enough, ARM64 is compatible. So if you're running one of those, you're fine.
Oh, good. Get out your Windows, what was the first generation Surface with Windows RT?
Yeah.
You're covered.
No, they called it a Pro, and it wasn't.
Okay.
But yeah, if you're running an ancient AMD or Intel, they're going to warn you that you're just not able to experience... Yes, like 4 or 5 generations ago.
the glory.
You're not going to be able to experience Copilot, and they're going to let you know this. One commenter pointed out, "Oh well, all insiders have watermarks," and I'm like, "Yeah, dude, they do. It says that you're in the insider, and this is what you should expect." No, this is straight out. Yeah, you're not going to be able to truly. You've got to support Cortana.
How about in security corner? Now, IoT. It's relatively insecure, as you know, but the UK has banned insecure default passwords from IoT devices. Hopefully, they're just the first of every nation to make it illegal. These fines are big. £10 million. That's over $12 million.
Or
so I can't use my Linux combination anymore.
So that means you need to change internet connected admin/password. You need to change that. Yeah.
So username admin, password admin will not be the default.
Yeah. It will not. No.
Anymore.
Okay. No.
That could.
But you know what? I can look up the default password on the internet, right?
Absolutely. Yes, you can.
Yes.
Well, that is going to be annoying because there are some times where it is just okay. What the hell is the default password on a Xerox printer that I hate with all of my life? But no, honestly, this is good. This is a good step towards stopping making the iOS the IoT.
Is the UK? Is this going to be one of those things where it's EU and then it forces everybody to change because the EU mandates?
Because France is already looking at adopting it, and they're in the EU still.
Right.
So, yes, it will. And the other nice thing is that they will also apply the same fine to anyone who does not spell out how long the support chain was, or the support cycle will be. Because, yeah, you go out and you buy your nice fancy Logitech device, and then all of a sudden they just abandon it, and you're kind of screwed. So this law will also say that, hey, you're going to have to put a life cycle on it. You're going to have to put an exact end of life on it, where we're no longer going to provide security updates. And you got to be transparent about it, or we'll find the hell out of you. This is a good thing. This is a very good thing. And I hope it spreads.
Here's something at least tangentially related. This is at Serve the Home. pfSense Plus 24.03 released with a big default password update and more.
Yeah, basically, they're requiring that you set a default password when you install it. So this is an instance of what you were asking about before, whether or not this aspect of not shipping, quote unquote, firmware or hardware with the default password. This is a very similar situation with pfSense practically being installed on an appliance. It's practically what that device is when it's turned on. So this is one of those quasi, appliance firmware-ish software elements of pfSense itself. And I think this is a smart move. I'm not sure exactly the particulars of how they've implemented it, but I think forcing people into setting something that is not the default, despite Josh's, and I think all of us at some point wanting to, hey, what's the password to, I think Jeremy said this too, what's the default password to Xerox printer, because I need to be able to change the default paper size in this thing, or the default
it's
paper
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
or the
7,
networking
8.
Or the networking setup, or whatever. It's going to become more and more difficult to do that, simply because of the things like the new edict from the EU that's saying thou shalt not ship this piece of hardware with a default admin 12345 password anymore. It's just become out of control. It's because people don't fix it. They should, but they don't. So the punishment is less convenience. Security, and I've said this before, security and convenience are inversely proportional, and that's what we're
It's a teeter-totter.
It is. So pfSense, here's an example.
Yeah.
Here's an example of a piece of software, quasi, appliance that is embracing the whole fix your damn default passwords. I mean, I like this, but I hate the inconvenience this is going to, bring to us, because who doesn't have a relative that says, I need to fix this thing and I can't because I don't have the password. And you go, you're constantly looking up the passwords to whatever device they need to be fixed, and you go find it. It's a modem or it's some other embedded thing, and you go and fix it. Those days are behind us, hopefully, in a weird way. Hopefully.
I also think that we may end up seeing the bad portion of this, where people, if they're having to set their own password at boot up of all their new Internet of Things devices, they're just going to put the same password on everything.
That's already a problem.
And
it's already a problem.
Is probably everything.
It's already a problem. And we talked about that a couple weeks ago about, for God's sake, stop using the same password, because people are using it as traversal attacks, and they own you. They own your life after that. They're getting into your bank accounts. Yeah, basically, this happened due to a Netflix hash reversal problem, I think, where many passwords were reusable to, attack people's banking or other parts of their life. So stop doing that shit. Get a password manager.
Yeah. A post-it under your keyboard.
Make sure you get a password manager, and then write down the password to the password manager on a post-it note that you put on your monitor.
I know we're talking about our parents here, but stop it.
Just hide it with a notepad, a note under your keyboard. You'll be fine.
Okay.
One more security corner story. Fake job interviews target developers with new Python backdoor.
Imagine the place that you are so wanting to work has set you up in an interview. And during the live interview process, remote, of course, because you don't need to actually go anywhere to get this new sweet software engineering or operational position, ops position that you want. They're going to have you, hey, could you just navigate to this GitHub repo, download this, and that's part of the test that we're going to be giving you. What you just did was probably infect yourself with a remote access Trojan or remote access toolkit, a rat, as it were, the RAT part of the show. Anyway, the point is, just stay on top of this. Don't let yourself be taken in by, hey, just download this thing real quick. Do your due diligence. Don't download pieces of software that you have no idea what it is that's doing. That's pretty much it on this one. I'm not going to go into the details of what it does once you understand what a remote access Trojan is essentially going to be able to do. They own your machine after this, and you're going to become part of a botnet. Just don't.
And you're going to need a new job.
It's not really going to. They're not hiring you. It's not even a real job interview.
You were working for when you were looking for the new job, you're going to need a new job.
Also true.
Well, it's time for gaming quick hits. And our first story, everyone's favorite company, Wizards of the Coast. They're taking over the Dungeons and Dragons PC gaming brand.
Well, they already own D&D. First of all, they already own D&D.
Well, right, but on PC.
No, first off, they should be called Wizard of the Coast because of how many people they've dumped. They've laid off thousands of people over the last bit.
Thousands?
But yeah, they've thrown $1 billion+ at the various games or game studios that Hasbro owns, which I started to look up, but wow, there's just so many of them, and I don't know which four they were referring to. But yeah, it's a company which has a long history of canceling IP after everyone gets excited, or putting out really, really subpar Star Wars games. Are throwing over $1 billion at making brand new Dungeons and Dragons games because, holy crap, Baldur's Gate 3 did brilliant. Oh wait, Larian says that the rule set's kind of annoying and it ruins their inventivity, so they don't want to do it anymore. And well, Wizards of the Coast always likes money, and they always like to upset their customers. So yeah, this is not going to work out well. I want to believe it will. There's no way in hell it is. Sorry.
All right, let's quickly move to the next story. Sins of a Solar Empire 2 will release on Steam this summer.
That was a great game. The original. I played a lot of it.
Yes. Hopefully the second one will be good.
We hope.
It's been a couple of years.
It looks pretty good. It's been a long time. I wouldn't say a couple. It's been 8 years since that first one came, or the two came out on Epic, which is easy to understand why people didn't see it. That was mean. I'm sorry. Anyway, I think the availability of this is going to be far bigger reach once it's on Steam. And a lot of the aspects of it look really pretty good if you enjoy this sort of thing, which is a nice mix between real-time strategy and instantaneous ship-to-ship combat. Their Zoom system really helps enable that. So if this is the sort of game you like and you're waiting for easy or access to Sins of a Solar Empire 2, it's going to be on Steam soon. A couple months. That's it. I'm done. That's all I had.
And we're done with this whole segment, and we're going to try to get to at least one Jeremy review.
The Razer Firefly V2 Pro. If you want a mousepad that can literally... where is it here? Lighting... Ooh.
Yeah, this is...
That's riveting at this point.
Let me turn the brightness up to full.
for the audio...
Let me put the...
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really exceptional. By the way,
it's very bright.
Just that is much brighter. This is a $100 mouse pad.
For $100,
that lights
you can have a mouse pad that in a fully lit room with lighting pointing at me for the podcast.
It is
this bloody bright.
This is the beginning of an era. This is the first of its kind. It's RGB lighting zones inside of your mouse pad. There's 15 zones. I'm guessing this is edge lit, but it doesn't really matter because
it is. But whatever they've done to the actual pad is so ridiculously reflective, the entire pad does glow.
Oh, look at these pictures. These are real photographs that Jeremy took. Who doesn't want that under their mouse?
It's brilliant is what it is. But until they can actually show at least 30 frame per second video on a mouse pad, I'm not that interested.
That's the future. You're right. It
is. Yeah.
And make the whole thing capacitive. Forget Apple's weird touchpad accessory for their Macs. Get a 12 or 15 or 20 inch mouse pad with capacitive touch and configurable lighting effects.
I think all of this RGB coloring is a nice step in the direction of eventually having full video on the mouse pad. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, click to one of the pictures where I have the advanced one on. This thing has more layers than GIMP does. This is what it does.
That's impressive. That's very impressive.
I mean, hey, if this is your thing, it's probably worth $100.
I think this is the definition of unicorn vomit.
It's got one USB-A on the side there, or USB-C to USB-A, and there's got one USB-A. There is no wireless charging on this.
And that's a huge miss, honestly.
With a
you've got $100. It's already powered. Put a cheese, even a 5-watt. Put something on there for charging a phone or something. But look, this picture.
It does that.
That does look infected. Jeremy, I would have that. I would take this to a doctor.
I tend to turn it off. There is one really great thing about it, though.
Okay.
Because there's a window behind there, so the cats keep running in. And I'll be playing. I've cleaned off the mouse pad, and all of a sudden the mouse hits this one little tiny grain of dirt that the cats have left. And so I try and sweep it off, and I can't see it. With this thing, I crank the weighting up to max. Oh, there it is. Goodbye.
Oh. Interesting side effect.
But hey, if you want to have as many layers as your average Photoshop, because this thing does layers when you go into the advanced settings.
Wow.
Where you can have all effects on top of effects on top of effects. I mean, hey, thanks for sending it out, Razer, but I don't get it.
You see,
hopefully the cool kids do.
Jeremy, onions have layers, mouse pads have layers.
Okay.
Yeah, but I like to eat onions.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Jeremy. By the way, if you're
also very stiff.
Go to PCPer.com to read more about this RGB mouse pad for $100. Soon.
God, I can't get it to stop. How do I get it to stop?
Soon in a clearance aisle near you.
I'll be honest. 5 years ago, I would have jumped on that thing. I really would have. Once I turned 50, I matured and moved away from that sort of thing.
It took until 50.
I'm still waiting for maturity, and I'm in my 40s, so I'm hoping someday to get past some of my weird.
I got into the all that lighting for a while, and I honestly moved away from it because I got tired of Razer Synapse just eating a gig of RAM from running all the time.
It's time for Picks of the Week. Josh, please get us started.
He's doing it again.
In the interest of time, Josh, please stop pretending to be frozen.
All right. Anyway, okay. So this is one of the cheapest 4 terabyte NVMe PCIe 4.0 products out there. 245 essentially. It does not. It is DRAMless. It is SLC. Well, it does have SLC. Cache. 7.5 gigabytes per second of read speed. I mean, it's probably not fantastic. And I did look it up. The controller is by the spinoff of J Micron. So yes, they're still working. It's still doing
LLB?
it. J Micron.
Yeah, the spinoff
Remember?
is what? LLB?
Remember?
J Crew? Is that what you're thinking?
Was it?
No.
I don't know.
What was the spinoff of J Micron?
J Cole?
Maxon?
Oh,
What is their the spinoffs is Maxio.
MAXXON.
Max.io.
Yeah. That's it.
And so, yeah, I remember, back in the day when our good friend Alan Maltavino was covering SSDs for the first time, J Micron had that lovely stuttering when, doing reads. I mean, they eventually fixed it, but that first generation of SSDs was awful. And Intel was, the first that was great. But, they improved their product and they spun off the SSD controller group into Max.io. And now you've got this. And apparently it's pretty solid. And it's one of the cheapest 4 terabyte NVMe drives that you can get. So I'm curious to hear from any of you who may pick this up because it sounds like a great little gaming drive.
Sebastian, I would like to go next. I challenge Josh to a duel.
Uh-oh. This is highly unorthodox, but I'm going to allow
duel?
It is.
Well, you issue the challenge, so he chooses the weapons.
I choose the Gen 4 version of my pick tonight. If you would click through to that link, please. From a name brand we all know and occasionally love. Crucial. 4 terabytes of NVMe. DRAMless. Nope. The Gen 4 one I think actually may have DRAM. 248, Josh.
Oh,
not
wow.
Not bad from a name brand, I do.
Yeah,
say.
from a brand you trust.
Exactly.
So it is the P3 Plus up to 5 gigabytes per second. So
yes,
it's a little slower.
It is.
But it's $2
But it's a
more
slowness you can trust.
Indeed.
I don't know if I want faster J Micron type performance, honestly. It's faster until it's completely stopped, and then it's faster.
The DRAM on this runs out at about 500 megabytes. Anyway, my pick doesn't end there. For those with perhaps an older motherboard, there's a Gen 3 version of this 4 terabytes. That's available.
Man, if you're running a system so old you can't even run the AI assistant in Windows 11.
Stop with your Microsoft apologist. 224 for a 4 terabyte Gen 3 SSD at a reasonable 3,500 megabits per second. DRAMless, Josh, I'll give you that. But I thrust at your heart, sir, with $224.
You task me.
I do.
You task me.
$224, 4 terabytes, Gen 3, Crucial, a brand you can trust. I think we've established that. The game is set.
That's an M.2 drive you want to throw in an external enclosure and be quite happy with it.
Actually, yes.
Hey, I admit these are probably your second drive. This is probably your second drive. Maybe not your primary, but
yeah. How about Jeremy's pick of the week?
Please.
Indeed.
Would anyone like to own a piece of history? Because they are selling one of the original Cheyenne supercomputers. I mean, it started out bidding at $2,500. We're up around $30,000 now, but come on, this is the Cheyenne supercomputer that we all lost our shit over when it first came out. Because 5.34 petaflops was unbelievable. It was number 20 in the world when it first arrived. I mean, sure, it weighs about 1,500 pounds or so, but, Josh is local. He can pick it up for you. it only uses like 2.27 megawatts of power compared to your average Intel system now. It's nothing at all. It's just 18.
What is it?
It's as much as Xeon E5 2697 V4
that are 1.5 tons a piece.
Well, you don't get the whole thing. Well, you could get the whole thing, but each of the E cells, as they call them, weighs about
14 units to 1,500 pounds. Okay.
Yeah, the air cooleds are 2,500. Unfortunately, you're not getting into the cabling, and considering there were a lot of fiber optics in there, that's actually probably most of the price that you'd be able to get. But it's not been heavily used. I mean, there's only about 7 billion core hours on it.
Current bid $100,170. By the way.
Well,
yeah,
someone's getting serious.
I love
4 days ago it was at $3,000.
Holy crap! It's over $100,000.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Oh, someone's hoping that the 40 petabytes of storage
probably the Iranians
completely wiped. Yeah.
It's probably the
I think it's 40 petabytes of storage on there. Yeah, they totally didn't wipe it completely.
We said there'd be no politics. We swore there would be no politics. We all signed the agreement, if I remember correctly.
It's okay.
I have signed no such agreement.
I just think it's...
Do you know how many PS2s Iran bought back in the day with the cell processors?
100?
A few more.
That's a lot of cells.
All right.
So yeah, if you want to get it, you can get it. Do it for your country.
I just want to let everybody know that we skipped every third story, so there it is, in order to finish barely on time.
And it's still midnight.
Entirely true, but yes. Kent, do you have a pick of the week?
I have a pick this week.
Okay.
There's a lot of audiophile people that they think they're missing out. But, if you really want the pinnacle, this is the hottest new audiophile product out there right now.
100%.
They're selling like crazy. I'm not even making that up. These are selling like crazy. For only $100, you can get your very own audio cassette player.
Fake Walkman.
What?
Yes.
What?
FiO. Ooh.
Now,
low wow and flutter.
There's a lot of wow and flutter in these, but hey, there were back in the day too. So, audio cassettes.
My Sony Walkman with 3-band EQ on the door was flawless. Yeah, that's right.
I like they're pairing it with the Porta Pros too. That's classic.
Oh, I actually saw a review on one of these the other day, and the guy was completely honest. The quality, it's not there.
Was it V Westlife?
Nostalgia of listening to some of these cassettes that he hasn't heard in 30 years. He was just like, it brought this emotion back to him. And, all joking aside, really, that's
Hiss will do that.
That's what listening to music's about, is the emotion and the enjoyment.
Oh my goodness, yes. So,
Josh, try little Dolby B on that, okay? All right.
I'm going to go metal with this.
You suppress your
you should have nickel metal hydride.
If you look at the Westlife,
your CRO2 tapes have got nothing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're not sorry. Okay. If you go to the YouTube channel V Westlife, he did a roundup of the 4 newest Walkman style cassette players, and he has like a authentic TIAC test tape. He does tone generation, and he measures the wow and flutter and all of this stuff, and they're all pretty bad. Some are worse than others. The FiO is not that great. Unfortunately, these days, if you go to eBay or like Etsy, a lot of people sell tape players on Etsy for some reason, places like that, to buy a reconditioned portable tape player that has new belts, it's more expensive than this often. So it sucks. I mean, my old Walkman, I actually tried using it again a few years ago, and the belt was all like melted on the inside. So it happens. You're gambling if you're buying one used, because it probably has either
unlike
a belt
everyone's
issue
used Discman, which never survived.
No, those
were awful. Anti-skip. Are you sure? Are you really sure?
Hey, I have a working Discman to this day. I think it's the D171. No anti-skip in that one.
The lens hasn't been scraped to hell?
No. I took care of my stuff. I lied. I gave it to my brother and he destroyed it. But then I bought it again years later for nostalgia on eBay for like $70.
All true, I assume.
100% true. This is all true. So yeah. Sorry for stepping on that. Kent, did you have any more to say about the $100?
No. I just thought it was really interesting and thought it made a good joke as well. Although Josh, I admit I gave away to Goodwill probably 15 years ago now 3 of the old big dual-sided cassette storage cases full of music. And some of it, I've never heard the music again, and I kind of wish I had those cassettes so that I could make copies of them.
Yeah. The music industry doesn't like that, though. They don't like people making copies of things. It's a good thing that after cassettes went away, consumers stopped copying music.
Or recording things off the radio. Do you remember recording things off the radio? That was
my life when I was
high-speed dubbing.
Yes, but the quality isn't as good. Josh, you want to do half-speed dubbing, if possible, for the best quality. Half-speed mastering.
Let's talk about
some of our audience is out there going, what's a cassette?
What the hell are they talking about?
Next week, I already have my pick lined up. I'm gonna talk about this watch that I've been reviewing just for my own amusement at home. We're gonna talk about the Watch OS experience, the Wear OS or whatever it's called. But this week, I had to preempt that because LGR reviewed the Intel Pocket PC Cam. I've had one in storage, still sealed in the box for years. Keep on thinking, I'm going to do something with that someday. Well, he already has. So literally, this box right here, I've got it.
It's worth nothing.
It's
got it.
It's
baby.
And it's still sealed. If you can see that, and it's been. He's done a better job than I ever would. So if you're interested in this part of computing history, just watch the LGR video.
The most
now I can get rid of mine.
Part of that video, the most amazing part of that video is the prepackaged Toshiba batteries that came with that camera were still good and worked.
Yes.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
My first digital camera was a Kodak had 512K of memory, and you would attach it to a serial port. So all of my old pictures, they were 20 kilobyte in size.
DC-40? DC-40?
It might have been.
Was it oblong like this, sideways, more instead of like more of a square?
No.
Okay.
No, it was more of a Kodak disc.
Okay. So like a DC-20.
Yeah.
I used to work for Eastman Kodak in digital applied imaging, so I remember all these cameras.
Yeah. Don't mess with.
Remember,
with Brett when it comes
I'm going to get you with the Kodak disc. I'm going to get you. Yeah, it's a terrible song.
Well, that's going to do it for the PC Perspective podcast this week. We want to thank everyone in the audience, and I'm going to do that now, one by one. Thank you, Gentle Stone. Mm-hmm. Thank you, James Fox. Thank you, Hard OCP TV, Buff
John
Barnaby.
Paul Bacon.
Where's my magnifying glass?
Yeah, Introvert
Alert.
Thank you, everyone.
Every one of the other people, Nori, Baruto, Buff Barnaby.
240 hertz is slow, by the way. 540 hertz is where it's at, by the way. Look it up.
Well, that's why you call your monitor Swift.
I'm not sure you're gaming unless you're gaming at above 500 hertz. Just an opinion.
And 1080 with low on graphics.
1080 low, as you know.
You saw that monitor.
You saw that monitor. That is a TN panel. So
it is. It's fine. It's fine.
The TN is how you get the speed that you need. What on the hell?
What?
Okay.
Holy
Kyle,
what is he
Kyle,
doing?
Ty, no.
Kyle.
Never watch the PC Perspective podcast live stream drunk. It's not too late.
Well, honestly,
That's
Is there
our
an undo
job.
button?
4 times
That's
my
our job.
monthly payment. So
That is absolutely unnecessary.
thank you, Kyle.
Kyle.
Kyle,
Thanks,
thank you
Kyle.
so much
Thank you.
for the completely.
So now we're
unnecessary super chat.
contractually obligated to talk about Kyle for the rest of the evening.
welcome to Hard OCP TV.
30 more seconds and we get to his 5-minute mark and then we're done.
You know, I have thought so many times about just putting a camera over my shoulder and just like, why don't I just do that? Why do I work
You
so
should.
hard on these videos that
should.
are never going to even get any views? But no. He says
alert.
F off and thank you.
Yes.
All right.
That's it.
All right, man.
Here's Kyle.
All right.
Well, thank you.
All right. Hey,
Correct.
it is 10 past midnight on the East Coast, and I think it's time to end the stream. Before
We're all
anybody
turning
else
into pumpkins.
gives us any more money,
Yes.
we have to stop the madness now.